Welcome to the Age of Radio. You were listening to episode 4. Episode 4 was recorded on 11/21/2017. This episode wasn't recorded in front of a live studio audience, but there are a bunch of animals that live here, so you might hear some barks and yaps in the background. The barks are the dogs, the yaps are my wives. So, that being said, I only have one wife. I am here with my sidekick, Furiosa the hamster. She will be chilling in her cage. In this episode, we'll be starting the December 2017 Podcast Awards. We will be diving into the Instagram engagement rate. In business development, I will talk about the tough time I've had looking at the cost of our award show and continuing to look at our scorecards for both JV Impacts and Age of Radio. Also, I'm going to talk about weighing in, being my weight, and the fact that I'm gaining weight, my weighing in every day and decreasing my calorie intake. Let's get this show on the road. Happy Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is another one of America's lies about what really transpired with the Native Americans. So I encourage you to go down to your local library and get some books on Thanksgiving and do your due diligence to see how we've been lied to about our history. But on the flip side, who the fuck doesn't love turkey? I know I do, especially since I'm gaining weight. But the great thing about Thanksgiving is, though, it's good to be thankful about stuff. Showing gratitude is a phenomenal thing that you can do for yourself every single day. Something that John Vasquez taught me when I used to work for him and not with him like I do now. Actually, we were technically always worked together, but I directly reported to him when he was in corporate America. And one of the things that he always talked about was being grateful for things. And as I am a Buddhist and I study Buddhism, that's something that Buddhists talk about a lot, about being grateful. So since today is Thanksgiving that you're listening to this, I really wanted to take some time and tell everyone what I'm thankful for. And I hope that you tell all of the people that you're thankful for today that you're thankful for them. But the first person I'm thankful for is my mother, who is the reason I am who I am and continue to accomplish so much in my life, both spiritually, mentally, and physically. I'm grateful for my wife, Danielle. We are coming up on our 4th year of marriage. I have known my wife for about 17 years. I've been with her 12 years, and we've been married for 4 years. She has supported me through my alcoholism, my borderline personality, and anxiety disorders. She stayed with me while I completed my undergraduate studies and graduate studies. She was there for me when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and she supports me working to 60 to 80 hours a week for the last 7 years. And she supports me trying to get that work week up to 100 hours a week as we work on the businesses that we own, or that I own, that we own. So I want to thank my best friend, Luke McRoberts, who taught me the value of knowledge. Without him, I don't think I would have gotten my life back together. I saw him finish school, and his ability to think always amazes me. And he's probably the smartest person that I know. And I want to thank my grandparents for helping to raise me with my mom. The small amount of conservatism that I believe in, I learned from my grandparents, and it's all the good parts about conservatism that I learned from them. I want to thank my best friend and business partner, John Vasquez, for supporting our ventures both financially and for grinding every day while I'm at my day job and taking the leap of faith that a lot of people don't have the courage to do, to leave their jobs and go after their dreams and make their dreams reality. And I want to thank the only other friends that I really have, which are Andrea and Kristen Zizzo. I also want to thank Trish and Jen Black, who I haven't really seen since our Caribbean cruise. But these four people are probably the kindest, nicest, and funniest people that I could ever hang out with, or that anybody could ever hang out with. They're amazing people, and I'm glad that they're a part of my life. And I'm also very happy for part of my wife's family, her mother Teresa and her father Jesse. They're supportive too with the things that we do. And her mother Teresa is one of the nicest ladies in the world. So I really appreciate them. And then they have a side of their family called the Hannibals, that are fantastic people, and they've taken me in on my own, or as one of their own, I guess I should say. So I'm greatly thankful for them, and yeah, I'm sure there's tons of shit that else that I'm thankful for, but that's all I could think of when I was writing this podcast. The other thing I want to say is to Drea and Kristen and Trish and Jen. One day when I can, I will make sure that we all can go on a cruise together 2 or 3 times a year, because going on cruises is amazing and I love it. Love it, love it, love it. And then, one other person that I'm very, very thankful for is Isaac Newton for creating calculus. And I think that's important because Isaac Newton was born on December 25th, and we should really be celebrating his birthday instead of the birth of Jesus. Just my opinion, whatever. And then also want to thank Shakyamuni Buddha for showing us how everything is interconnected. And also for physics in general, for showing us how everything is interconnected. I think it's amazing, and I think all of you should study science, specifically physics, and also Buddhism, 2 things that I hold dear to my heart. All right, enough of that. Thankfulness stuff. Now, let's get on with the goodies. So, first thing, make sure you vote for your favorite November show that I recapped on the Age of Jeremy show in October. So those shows, again, they were Uncivil, Coffee with Butterscotch, School of Podcasting, and Star Talk. So go to the Facebook group, Age of Radioheads. You can find it on Facebook, and you will be able to vote for your favorite show. Whoever wins out of the voting, we have until the end of November, I will be sending, on behalf of Age of Radio, a prize that I'm going to talk more about in the business development section. All right, before I play the first podcast, I want to let everybody know that I launched ageofjeremy.com. You can find a blog there that I'm going to do my best to post every other week. We'll see how that goes. But there's a blog up right now about the importance of procrastination, or at least how it helps me. So that's ageofjeremy.com. And then also we are featuring some great Amazon products for Smart Home Month. So make sure you check that out. And if you join the Age of Radio Syndicate, which is free, we will also advertise your products on ageofjeremy.com and ageofradio.org. Now, ageofradio.org isn't up yet, but it will be hopefully by the beginning of next year. But our featured syndicate product is Road to Riches by John Vasquez. You can find a link in ageofjeremy.com, or you can purchase the Roads to Riches book authored by John Vasquez at jvimpacts.com. So you can get it on ageofjeremy.com, or you can get it on jvimpacts.com. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Age of Jeremy and on Facebook at Age of Jeremy, and also follow Age of Radio on Facebook and join the Age of Radio Heads group, where you can help shape the universe. All right, we're going to start the December picks with a podcast called Modern Day Philosophers, and it's hosted by Danny Lobel. Danny Lobel is a comedian that has toured with the late Ralphie May, who was a good friend of his. His podcast, Modern Day Philosophers, is fucking amazing. He brings comedians into his studio, and they discuss philosophy, hence why it's called Modern Day Philosophers. People like Dr. Mayim Bialik from The Big Bang Theory. I'm probably butchering her last name, but Blossom. And Amy Farrah Fowler from The Big Bang Theory. And then Bobcat Goldthwait, who is also a fantastic comedian. And something that I learned that he hates being remembered for his part in the Police Academy movies, and I fucking love the Police Academy movies. But anyway, here is one of the clips from the show with Doug Stanhope as the guest.
Hello, and welcome to Modern Day Philosophers.
Modern Day Philosophers.
Having failed to pay attention in school, Danny Lobel, now older and wiser, will attempt to learn Basic Philosophy 101. Our young hero will be joined by today's top comedians, philosophers all their own. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Danny Lobel.
Modern day philosophers.
She says she gets it.
No, I get this.
She's lying.
I don't get it.
She lies all the time. Here, this one. Listen,
yeah.
Anne-Marie, listen. I am striving to give back the divine in myself to the divine in the all.
There's
Which
like
I
a
understand
chorus
that.
of inward and outward on that makes you, it's kind of like a koan in the Buddhist tradition where you kind of just turn inside out, like a Rumi quote where you just kind of, it's not necessarily that you have some
Sorry, I
definition.
knew this pit bull was rabid when I opened the cage.
Roof!
The next one, yes, I'm
Wait a
trying.
minute.
I'm trying to give back.
Let me ask you, have you ever had moments with the divine? Have you ever had any thoughts of the divine?
No.
Never?
No.
Never in your whole life you ever prayed
Moments
once?
of ecstasy, like when you're just like at one and orgasm.
Brett Erickson has a great joke. He goes, "I'm an atheist, but I find myself faltering in my belief in tight spots."
Yeah.
Like, oh Jesus, oh please don't let her be pregnant. Or
Is
that's
that-
not his joke, but
But is that true? Do you find, are there moments where you pray or where you look for something more in
No.
your life? Never.
no.
All right.
When I was younger, I was, it's kind of cliched and hackneyed at this point. Is I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, and I'm trying to get less atheist because I like to believe in a lot of things that are just illogical. But yeah, hey,
I definitely believe that God is a oneness within everybody. I feel like life is a spark and that we're all part of the same spark. That's where I'm at.
and you have no basis for that belief. It just makes you
Well,
happy.
even the Christian book says God is love.
I'll tell you what, it does make me happy, but that's all I care about is my own happiness.
And whatever makes you happy, whether you believe in fucking
Yeah.
hip hop or scratch tickets. Kenny comes over and plays scratch tickets all day, and he thinks that $500 winner is gonna change his life, and whatever makes you happy.
But
I like to believe in it's more than coincidence and it's fate, but it's based on nothing other than making you're deluding yourself because we don't know.
Right.
And that's the horror of the emotionless logic of being a long-term drunk, where you lose emotion, and you just see things through
Now,
instinct.
somewhere along the
basic
way,
logic, and it's
I started following Danny LaBelle on Instagram. And one night, I think it was like on a Saturday or Sunday, I decided to direct message him and see what his thoughts were on podcast networks. He said actually, first of all, it was really kind of cool that he actually responded to me, mainly because, my perception is that he's a big comedian and he's a funny comedian. He seems like a funny guy, or he is a funny guy. He seems like a really nice guy because he responded to my direct message and we kind of had a back and forth conversation about why he wasn't on a podcast network. Why he didn't really feel the need to join a podcast network, mainly because he has an ad agency that he works with, which brings me to the conclusion that, a lot of people think that joining a podcast network is the fact that they advertise your show and they get you ads. And if you can do that yourself, what's really the point in joining a podcast network? But as you'll see, as we move along in life and listening to this podcast, Age of Radio is going to be so much more. But it was really interesting because in that conversation that I had with Danny LaBelle, he actually offered to be on this podcast, which I thought was freaking fantastic. I don't really know the reason for him being on here. I kind of thought that maybe I should put him on this specific podcast because I'm talking about his show, but I kind of felt a little bit uncomfortable with it. Didn't know how I was going to do it. Trying to work 100 hours a week. I didn't know how I was going to put it all together. But I think that's really cool that he reached out to me, or he responded back to me on the direct messaging on Instagram, and we had a conversation. I think that's really, really great. And maybe, you never know, once Age of Radio gets ginormous, which it will, he'll join the network. All right. That was Modern Day Philosophers with Danny LaBelle. Next, I was kind of debating on this one. I've listened to it. I've listened to the podcast Serial, and I didn't know how mainstream I wanted to go, but when you really listen to this next podcast, it's really, really good. Like, it's really well developed. The production is phenomenal on it. The journalism is phenomenal on it. The intensity of it and wanting to just continue listening to it is amazing. And the podcast that I'm talking about is This American Life's S-Town. So the name of the podcast is S-Town, for Shit Town is what it really stands for. But in 2012, a horologist, John B. McLemore, sent an email to staff of the show This American Life, which is another podcast. And he was asking them, This American Life, to investigate an alleged murder in his hometown of Woodstock, Alabama. And Woodstock, Alabama, if you listen to the podcast, McLemore, like, he freaking hates the entire state, the entire town. He despises it. But after a year of exchanging emails back and forth and several months of conversation, McLemore. So let me back up. So the conversations that McLemore had was with producer Brian Reed. And Brian Reed's the producer for This American Life. So Brian Reed and McLemore, they were having conversations, not the rapper. They were having conversations back and forth. And so Brian Reed, the producer of This American Life, traveled to the small town in Alabama to investigate. So I'm going to play a clip for you right now. This is from S-Town, or Shit Town.
Chapter 1.
When an antique clock breaks, a clock that's been telling time for 200 or 300 years, fixing it can be a real puzzle. An old clock like that was handmade by someone. It might tick away the time with a pendulum, with a spring, with a pulley system. It might have bells that are supposed to strike the hour, or a bird that's meant to pop out and cuckoo at you. There can be hundreds of tiny individual pieces, each of which needs to interact with the others precisely. To make the job even trickier, you often can't tell what's been done to a clock over hundreds of years. Maybe there's damage that was never fixed, or fixed badly. Sometimes entire portions of the original clockwork are missing, but you can't know for sure because there are rarely diagrams of what the clock's supposed to look like. A clock that old doesn't come with a manual. So instead, the few people left in the world who know how to do this kind of thing rely on what are often called witness marks to guide their way. A witness mark could be a small dent, a hole that once held a screw. These are actual impressions and outlines and discolorations left inside the clock of pieces that might have once been there. They're clues to what was in the clockmaker's mind when he first created the thing. I'm told fixing an old clock can be maddening. You're constantly wondering if you've just spent hours going down a path that will likely take you nowhere, and all you've got are these vague witness marks, which might not even mean what you think they mean. So at every moment along the way, you have to decide if you're wasting your time or not. Anyway, I only learned about all this because years ago, an antique clock restorer contacted me, John B. McLemore, and asked me to help him solve a murder.
Something's happened. Something has absolutely happened in this town. There's just too much little crap for something not to have happened. And I'm about had enough of Shit Town and the things that goes on.
From Serial and This American Life, I'm Brian Reed. This is Shit Town.
Investigatory journalism is amazing, especially in podcast format. They released all of the S-Town episodes at one time, similar to how Netflix releases shows. And what I hope to happen is for Age of Radio to be adding investigatory journalism as we grow and get more money, whether through funding or through revenue. But in the meantime, if you check out S-Town, You'll be pleasantly surprised. It's an amazing podcast, and you can get S Town wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure you check it out.
When the air is filled with smoke on the 4th day in July, you watch my heart explode, shed a brilliant disguise. In a disappearing blue, I caught the darker shade of you. Then you did like you always do. You're unfazed by the time we wasted saving face. Left a postcard on the porch, 'cause I've grown up a little more. They say that time heals everything, but what if time is everything? A flight to call and see what's good, or is it simply understood? There's a reason you don't want me around. You play it straight and that's okay, but I don't buy the whole charade. Like it's a secret you don't want me around.
This episode of Age of Jeremy is brought to you by Amazon. The rest of November is Smart Home Month at Amazon.com. Having a smart home is amazing. I can check to see if my doors are locked just by asking my Amazon Alexa. I can also lock them if they're unlocked. You can also connect your home camera system to your Amazon Echo Show and be able to see the rooms in your house being played through that Amazon Echo Show. Head on over to ageofjeremy.com. In the featured section, there is a link to Amazon. It will take you over to Amazon Smart Home page, where there are great deals on everything you need to turn your home smart. Let's get back to the show. What is an engagement rate on Instagram? That's what we're going to talk about in this podcast social media section. Let's talk about what are engagement numbers. So on Instagram, your followers can engage with your posts by liking it, commenting on it, or saving it. Now, the engagement rate is calculated by adding your likes with the amounts of comments and then adding that number to the amount of saves. Let's take my most popular post. My most popular post has an engagement of 68. It has 63 likes, 5 comments, and 0 saves. So 63 plus 5 equals 68. That post was about chatbots and creating first principles, looking at what is possible with chatbots and kind of bringing the attention to this concept of first principles. Not really important right now. What is important is the engagement rate number being 68. Now, the engagement rate is calculated by first dividing this number by the amount of followers you have. So currently, when I was writing this, I had 747 followers. So if I take my engagement rate, which is 68, and I divide it by 747, my answer is 0.0910. Then what you do is you multiply that by 100 to turn it into a percent. This will turn that number into 9.10%. Now, you're asking yourself, like I asked myself, is that good or bad? So essentially, all that number means is that it means that that specific post, if I reposted it, I could expect 0 to 9.1 reactions for every 100 followers. So what's a reaction? That would be a comment, that would be saving the post, or that would be liking that post. Now, since per post is beneficial to look at to see what kind of posts are getting the most engagement, you can see what to really replicate. So if I know that that post about first principles in chatbots had that much engagement, or the most engagement that I've had out of all of my posts, it would make sense for me to repost things that have to do with that same type of content, because that's something that people are interested in, and they'll be more likely to be more engaged in that type of content. Now, Instagram Insights is helpful because you can organize your posts by engagement rate. So if you go to your Instagram and you go to Insights, then you go to Posts, then you go to See More, then you go to All, you can filter by engagement. And once you filter by engagement, you can hit Apply. Now, I know that's kind of a little complicated because I'm explaining this over audio, but if you search on YouTube for engagement rate, you'll probably find a plethora of content that explains to you how to get to that on your Instagram Insights. So anyways, after you hit apply, it will organize your posts by engagement. And then you can calculate the rate by dividing the amount of followers you have. So it's not going to give you the engagement rate. It's going to give you just the engagement number. So my top post had 68 engagement. My next post, I think, had like 58 engagement. So if I just divide those numbers by the amount of followers I have, that's what's actually going to give me the engagement rate. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, how do I figure out what my overall profile's engagement rate is? Well, this is where Instagram doesn't really help that I could find. So unless you want to pay money to a company like Iconosquare or Social Baker, it's not really easy to get your overall Instagram profile without calculating it yourself manually. Now, eventually, myself, or if you're a business owner or an influencer, or just want to check it out, eventually, you'll have to decide on whether you want to be able to calculate it manually, or if you want to pay for a service like Iconosquare or Social Baker or one of the other ones that are out there. I'll figure it out later, and we'll come back to it, I guess, because that's what the point of this podcast is, for me to explain that stuff to you. But anyway, so I'll explain how you calculate your overall profile engagement, because it's probably, for the metrics that are really out there, it's probably one of the most important metrics, especially because you will be able to gauge yourself with other profiles a lot better, as far as not really who has the better profile, but who has a more engaged profile. Now, your profile engagement rate is calculated by taking every post's engagement score and adding them together. So let's say out of all the posts that I have, if I take those engagement scores, how I said earlier that my top engagement score was 68 and my second top engagement score was 58. So 68 and 58. And then let's say the next one's 40 and so on and so on. If I add all of those together, let's say I get 17,400. So 17,400 is my all profile engagement score. So 17,400. Now, that engagement score is for all those posts added together. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide it by my total posts. So I will actually take my actual posts. I have 290 posts when I was writing this. And why I'm dividing it by the total number of posts I have is because it's going to find my average post engagement rate. So if I divide 17,400 by 290, that's going to equal 60. This means that your average post engagement score is 60. So out of all of my posts, I average a 60 engagement score. Then I'm going to take that number and divide it by the amount of followers I have. So again, my followers are 747. 60 divided by 747, and then times 100 to turn it into a percent. So 60 divided by 747 times 100 to make it a percent. That yields 8%, or gives us 8%. So what that means is I can expect a total of 8 likes, comments, saves, or a combination of all of those together added up for each post that I create for every 100 people. So my profile engagement rate based off of this scenario is 8%. Now what I can do is I can go ahead and compare that to other profiles, or other brands or other influencers or whatever have you that you want to compare to see who actually has the more engaged Instagram profile. And that's really important if you're an influencer, and it's really important if you're a brand, because you want to have the most engaged feed. And the more engaged your feed is, I guess technically or theoretically, you would assume that the more engaged your feed is, the more those people are going to buy your products or watch your stuff or listen to your stuff or whatever the case is. And that's why the engagement rate is really important. Now, is 8% a good or bad engagement rate? That's actually pretty good. The average engagement rate is 4.3%. Anything over 4.3% would be good. That being said, however, I think there are some other metrics that I've been playing around with that might do a better job at looking at the growth of a profile and the strength of a specific social media profile, which is what we are going to talk about next time. All right, let's spit a little bit about this award show. Now, November is coming to an end, which means that everybody who's listening to this podcast needs to go to Age of Radioheads on Facebook. It's a group, public group, and go and vote between Uncivil, these are podcasts, hopefully you've caught on to that, Uncivil, Coffee with Butterscotch, School of Podcasting, or Star Talk. And whoever you all vote for, the winner, Age of Radio is going to send a prize to. Now, when I set this up, I was originally going to give away a mini microphone. I thought that would be really cool. Thought it might cost like $10 to make and then mail it for another $10. So I'd be out like $20. But the brand awareness would be great. We'd be creating our own podcast show. And who the fuck wouldn't like getting a cool ass microphone trophy for something that they didn't even know they were being voted on? But anyway, I was wrong about the price altogether. To get the microphone would cost about $27, and that doesn't include shipping. Then I thought about Disneyland, which is something I think about on almost a daily basis, because if I could live at Disneyland, I would live there. In fact, one day I hope to have enough money that I can go to Disneyland and I can buy the place above the firehouse where Walt Disney used to have his bed or office or whatever the hell he had up there. And then I'm going to sleep in there and I'm going to live at Disneyland. That's my plan. But anyway, so I think of Disneyland a lot. One of the things I think about Disneyland are the pin collections. And I think collecting pins is the best. In fact, where I work, one of my jobs, well, I wouldn't say it's a job because eventually I'm going to be on the board of directors and I'll be running the entire company. But that being said, for that place where I work, which I'm not going to say the name, the place that shall not be named, they give away pins, and I love collecting those too. So that's one of the reasons why I try so hard, is so I can collect pins. But, so what I'm thinking is maybe we can get an Age of Radio pin made with a little microphone on it. And I have not checked into that at all because I have not made it a super priority, even though I probably should start making it a priority because November is almost coming to an end. And then we have to find the winner and then we have to send this out. And then hopefully they enjoy it and they talk about it on their podcast. That's the trick. So I'm going to look into that and then I'm going to figure out how expensive that is and if I want to go that route. Because again, one of the most important things you can be doing as a business owner or just in your regular life is watching your finances. So that's one of the other reasons I'm trying to keep the cost down. But the only expense I think companies should go all in on are employees. Again, remember, people are the most important resource in a company, but most companies manage them like expenses, which is garbage. They should be managing expenses like expenses and managing people like people. And this is one of the other failures of capitalism, among many other failures. But I am also a hypocrite because the place that shall not be named is a bank, and I work for a very large bank. Now, more on that another time. Going to look into the pins and see what I can come up with. But remember, please, 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 please go and vote at Age of Radio Facebook group, Age of Radioheads. And you can go to Facebook, look up Age of Radioheads, it'll come up, or you can look up Age of Radio and then go through the Facebook page and follow us on Age of Radio and then go to Age of Radioheads group. But it'll be fun, even if it doesn't do the brand awareness thing that I want it to do, or strategy that I want it to have. Even if going and voting and talking about the podcast and sharing podcasts with people and more people get engaged in this this media or this form of entertainment, I think that'd be awesome. So either way, it's a win-win. It's a win-win situation. Win-win situation. All right, let's talk a little bit about this scorecard. Now, if you don't know what a scorecard is, go listen to their podcast. I briefly explain it. Guess I could briefly explain it again. A scorecard is a bunch of metrics that a company looks at to make sure that all of the things that they want to measure are being measured and they're moving and progressing to the measurements that they or the goals that they have set for those specific measurements. So like an increase in revenue, an increase in profit, decrease in expenses, and then it just gets more complicated from there. But we're focusing, or I am focusing, on creating a scorecard for both JV Impacts and Age of Radio, and then taking those scorecards for at least Age of Radio, because it's owned by my partly owned by my corporation, October Revolution Corporation. And then we're also going to be launching a nonprofit called One Home, One Human. I'm not going to talk about that too much here, but just want to put the name out there. One Home, One Human, and I'm going to create scorecards, and then that scorecard, so they'll each have their own scorecard, and then October Revolution, who owns those, will have a scorecard that it rolls up into to measure the success of these corporations. Essentially, what you want to think about if you're a small business owner or large corporation or a nonprofit or just a person wanting to have some fun, you always want to be able to measure your success in some way, and that's what metrics allow you to do, and that's why scorecards are so important. I know I want unit growth on it. For example, we're currently selling nutrition plans with JV Impacts. So I've been tracking the type of packages we have been selling, because we have different types of packages. If you want to know what those are, go to jvimpacts.com and reach out to John Vasquez. You can reach out to John Vasquez at jv@jvimpacts.com. That's jv@jvimpacts.com if you want more information on the nutrition plans that we are selling, and workout plans and success coaching, just a plethora of products to take you to the next level. But that all goes through John. So this will get us, okay, so we've been selling these nutrition plans. So I've been tracking the type of packages we have been selling. This will give us 3 metrics to measure. I don't really know what I'm going to call them yet, but essentially they are package sales growth, they are package to goal, and they are package to goal growth. I'm going to give you some examples so it makes sense. If in week 1 we sell 100 packages, we would compare that to week 2, where let's say we sold 105 packages. That means we grew our unit sales 5% that week. Okay, so we had first week we did 100, second week we did 105. If you take 105, subtract it from 100, and then divide that by 100, you get 5%. The next metric would be package to goal. In week 1, we had a goal to sell 100 packages. In week 1, we sold 100 packages. That means that we have 100% package to goal, because our goal was 100. We sold 100, so 100 divided by 100 times 100 is 100. So in week 2, let's say we wanted to sell 110 packages, but we only sold 105 packages. So if you take 105, divide it by 110, times it by 100, and then round it, you get 95%. So this would be an example of a package to goal metric, or unit sales to plan goal. This is more useful when we take it even a step further. So in week 1, we have had 100%, and in week 2, we had 95, technically it was 95.45%. That would be a change, a negative change. We would have went down 5.5% in that percentage growth, which is a really great metric that more companies need to look at, because you're able to see how your growth, how your sales to goal percentage is growing or decreasing over time. And what you can find out is, as that gap widens, whether it's a positive gap or a negative gap, it would be a good idea for board of directors or for management to look at what's causing such a wide gap. These are the first items that I'm going to be adding to the scorecard, because it'll help us look and see how we're growing with specific products, and it'll also help us see what strategies are working as those gap widens or those gaps narrow. Now, if we were a larger company, if that goal to growth plan, or if that package to goal growth gap widened, it might also be an indication that there's unhealthy sales practices going on, because there's such a wide gap from the actual goal that we set to what we're actually doing. So what I mean by that is, if we set a goal to say 100 units, and then the first year, so we were supposed to sell 100 units in the first year, and in that first year we sold say 95 units, that's great. 95 out of 100, cool, great. But then that second year, we ended up selling, say 500 units, and we were only, planning on selling 200 units. Well, that first year we only sold 95. That second year, we just blew our numbers out of the water, by like 300%. So that gap's wide, right? That growth gap is wide to what we've actually planned to do. So we would want to look at that and find out if there's something unhealthy going on there, or if there's something amazing going on there with our strategy, and find out exactly how we want to contain that. And if you don't do that and it gets out of hand, you can hurt yourself in the long run. So this is one of the things that I want to be doing with all of our units. I'd also like to do it with our sales and other sales to plan measurements, because it's a very good indicator about where you should be looking at to see what's working well or what could possibly be not working so good. So that's where we're going to start with the scorecard. And again, as we go along with this, we'll go into some social media metrics that we want to use on the scorecard, and at the end of it, we'll have a full list of metrics that we want to use that we have defined, that if we meet these metrics, we are being successful as a company. All right. This is the personal development time. Now, I believe in keeping a close track of what is going on every day to find out what is happening. So the best shape that I've been in my life is when I've actually weighed myself every single day. And so one of the best ways to do that is to wake up every morning and weigh myself every day. So I'm weighing myself every day. So starting this week, I started tracking my weight every day. And I'm going to start giving updates on the podcast. So I weighed in Monday at 240 pounds, which means over the last 8 years, I've gained 40 pounds. And there's lots of contributing factors to that. Mainly it's because of the way that I eat and that I don't exercise. But for fun, I'm going to blame it on the diabetes. But so my wake up time right now is about 5:15. If you ask my wife, it's more like 5:30 because I turned the alarm off. But it's 5:15 now instead of 4:30 because of daylight savings time. So I have to start getting to my day job at around 7 instead of 6. Now, first thing in the morning, I'm going to weigh myself. So I did it on Monday, weighed in at 240. And then one of the things is, the weighing is going to, keep me on track of seeing that weight fluctuate. And But one of my biggest problems is I like eating whatever I want, but I know that I can't eat whatever I want because I'm not exercising an hour to an hour and a half a day like I usually like I've done in the past to be able to eat whatever I want and keep my weight down. Because now, since I've started to focus on 60 hours a week, when I about a month ago, 2 months ago, maybe now, I stopped going to the gym so I could work more. And now I'm focusing on that 80 to 100 hour work weeks. So I need to find out how I can implement some type of exercise and then cut down my caloric intake. So to start myself off, I'm going to get my exercise by walking my dogs and working on the backyard and front yard. So the nonprofit that I'm gonna be doing as a very side gig right now, called One Home One Human. Those projects. Well, okay. So the thing about One Home One Human is Elon Musk. He has a side company that he works about 2 hours a week on called the Boring Company, and the Boring Company is a way for us to put a car on a track and go underground. And then it just kind of speeds you to your destination. It's like a subway, but for just your car. That's called the Boring Company, and that's a side project that Elon Musk has. But One Home One Human being a nonprofit and what I really wanted to accomplish over my life, eventually it'll take more of a precedence over some other stuff. But right now I want to get it to about maybe 2 to 5 hours a week working on it. But the type of products that it's going to do, type of products it's going to create and technologies it's going to create, it's going to require me to do a lot of research outside, which which is going to be activities for me. So I'm going to kind of use that as exercise because of some of the stuff that I have to do in the backyard to plan and build and do stuff with this nonprofit. So hopefully these activities should help me burn some of the calories. Also, I am going to, like I said, decrease my caloric intake, and I'm going to try to get it down to 2,000 calories per day for the next couple of weeks because I probably usually eat like 3,500 calories a day, give or take. And I drink a ridiculous amount of soda, diet soda, which is worse. But then I'm going to try to get down to about 1,800. So this should help get the weight down. And then I'm going to base my weight off of science and see if I can do that. So I should weigh somewhere between 152 and 172 pounds. But right now, again, remember I weigh 240 pounds. Now I have a really large build, so I'm going to shoot for that 172 mark and go from there. I'm going to focus on not losing more than 5 pounds per week. One of my biggest problems, like I mentioned, is drinking soda throughout the day. Now, I'm a diabetic, and that's the main reason why I drink diet soda, or I'd probably just drink a crap load of regular soda all day long. But the great news about diet soda is it actually causes diabetes or makes diabetes worse. It also causes heart problems, kidney problems, it increases belly fat, and it can change your mood, which is probably why my mood changes all the time. I don't know. But it's really about time that I stop drinking soda, especially since I probably spend more money drinking soda than my wife does buying cigarettes. But the thing is, I use the carbonation in the soda to help me, to help my belly feel full. But then it also just makes my belly increase in size. Now, my hope is that as I lower my caloric intake, I will get less hungry, and then it'll be easier to stop drinking the carbonated beverages, or at least drink less carbonated beverages. So that's really what's going on in my personal life right now. But other than that, just focusing on the 80 to 100 hours a week and bringing this amazing podcast to you people and doing amazing stuff with Age of Radio and JV Impacts. So remember, jvimpacts.com. If you want some of the nutrition plans, getting close to November, actually the end of November, so Thanksgiving, because this is Thanksgiving today when you're listening to this, and then you're going to be going into the holidays. So it's a great time to get some nutrition plans and a workout plan. Just email John Vasquez at jv@jvimpacts.com. That's jv@jvimpacts.com, and just say, hey, Jeremy told me to reach out to you so you can make me a cool nutrition plan. He made me a nutrition plan, and it's freaking fantastic. So it's really going to help me get to my 2,000 calories a day. And it's right there on the JV Impacts app. It's amazing. So if you want that too, you can get it. You can get it. $49.99 for the nutrition plan, and then we have some other plans in there if you want to get that for the holiday season. Last thing, like I always do, if you're listening to this in the morning, have a good afternoon. If you're listening to this in the afternoon, have a good evening. And if you're listening to this in the evening, have a good night, and I will check you later.